I'm Larry Menti. Coming up this week on Jersey Matters, we are in Trenton because we're going to talk to a guy who is trying to end surprise medical bills in this state. You go to the hospital, you think you're covered, you're not. Surprise. This week on Jersey Matters. Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. Chances are, if you got a medical bill at some time in your life, you've looked at it and said, boy, where does that come from? Because you thought your insurance had paid for it. It happens to more people than you know, and one of the men, as a matter of fact, the man that is leading the fight against those surprise medical bills in the state of New Jersey is here with me now. Senator Joe Vitale from Middlesex County here in Woodbridge.
Yes.
First, let's explain what the problem is and how big the problem is. What are surprise medical costs?
Surprise medical bills, so we call them emergency and then inadvertent bills. So a surprise medical bill is when you come home from the doctor or from the hospital and you get a bill in the mail. And the bill says you owe X amount of dollars to the provider. And you thought that your insurance would cover it. You thought that when you went to your in-network hospital or you saw your in-network doctor and you used your in-network surgeon for the procedure, that your insurance company would pay your bill. Of course, you're responsible for your co-pays and deductibles and all that. You didn't think you would get another bill from anyone else. But more times than not now, people are getting bills from doctors and hospitals where that particular doctor who was part of the procedure wasn't in your network. So a good example is a woman who's giving birth and she goes to her in-network hospital that she's already arranged for the delivery. She has her obstetrician there. He's ready for the delivery. He or she is in network. But she needs an epidural. Well, lo and behold, they have to call an anesthesiologist in from somewhere in the hospital to administer the epidural, but he or she is not in the network. And so when the bills are all reconciled and the anesthesiologist sends a bill to her insurance company, the insurance company sees it and says, well, you're out of network, so I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars. And then the provider, in this case, it's the anesthesiologist, will send the patient a bill for the balance.
And this isn't just a minor thing.
No, it's not a minor thing.
It can be lots of money, and in totality, it's millions of dollars in the state of New Jersey. But for a person, it can change their life because they could be in debt, they could be in lawsuits, they could be fighting this for years and years and years and years. It's a pretty big deal, and from what I've read, people do their due diligence too. They try to check, they want to make sure that they're covered, and then there's still a surprise.
Right. If you have an insurance policy that has an out-of-network benefit, meaning that you can go out-of-network if you choose to, you know you're going to pay more. You know that procedure is going to cost you more because your insurance company is only going to cover a certain amount of money. But you've done that on your own. You know you're going to do that. But if you're surprised with the bill, when you've done all the right things, as you've mentioned, you've gone to you've read your list, you've gone online, you know who your providers are who are in the network. So you've gone the doctor, the hospital, the surgeon, the whatever it is, in network. And then you go and all of a sudden now you're getting a bill from the hospital. So if you go in an emergency to a hospital in New Jersey and that hospital just isn't, so you're from North Jersey and you wind up in Atlantic City and you have some sort of an event and you wind up in the emergency room. Well, that emergency room, while they're required to treat you, they're not in your network. And so the insurance company will pay them a certain amount of money and now you're going to get a bill from the hospital for the balance they believe that they're owed. And sometimes the bills that go out to some patients are egregious because they've now billed the insurance company way more than they should have. And when the insurance company, who's wise to this idea, only pays them what they think they're worth or what the procedure normally provides for, they'll bill the patient thousands of dollars more. We have cases now where people call our office and there are literally tens of thousands of dollars in bills that they didn't think they were responsible for. Patients wind up in small claims court, they wind up in collection, they can lose their house, their assets, because the provider or hospital just won't accept what the insurance pays as payment in full.
And so it sounds so inherently unfair, and I know that there's a national push state by state to try to fight this, and New York's been successful in passing legislation. You've been trying to pass legislation for some time now. Talk about your frustrations with this.
Well, it's been about 6 years, so there are other partners in the Assemblyman Scher, Singleton, and Coughlin in the Assembly side have been working on this issue as well with me. So we finally get a bill done we think is the right thing to do. We bring all the stakeholders together. We have meetings over and over again to understand their concerns. We made some changes. Well, it'll be the hospital association, or the trade group that represents all of New Jersey's hospitals, the Medical Society of New Jersey that represents the interests of all doctors, the insurance industry, Individual doctors, doctor groups, anesthesiology groups, pediatrics, things of that nature, they will, and they've come to talk to us about the concern. They all agree that patients shouldn't be balance billed. And I said, well, why don't we just say you can't balance bill a patient? Well, then how are we going to get paid? They'll say that the insurance company is being unfair to us, that they're only paying us what they think that we're worth, and it's really not what we think we're worth.
Can I stop there for a second? Sure. So I want to make sure I get that argument right. So what they're saying is that because they're not being paid enough by an insurance company, they want to make up their salary by the poor schlub who comes in and doesn't know that it's out of network, and they can charge him an exorbitant rate. I'm sure they think it's fair, but it's exorbitant compared to what they would have to pay an insurance company.
Sure. Look, insurance companies aren't angels on all this either, and sometimes they're a little stingy, and sometimes providers are too greedy. And so we provided for, in the law, in this potential law, we hope, a system of arbitration. So it's called baseball arbitration, meaning that the arbitrator, if it gets that far, has to decide between both numbers, the insurance company number or the provider number. Which one does that arbitrator want to require be paid, that number? And we think that's fair, because what will happen is a hospital or a doctor, for example, will not submit a number that's too out of whack with the sort of normal payment scheme. And insurance companies aren't going to be too stingy because they know that they could lose. And so our sort of idea behind all this is no one gets stupid twice. So if an insurance company only wants to pay someone $100 for a procedure that's worth $5,000, they won't do that. And a doctor is not going to charge the insurance company $20,000 for a Band-Aid and a stitch when it's only worth $1,000, because they know they'll lose an arbitration. So what will happen over time is that both parties, which won't get greedy, and I don't believe there will be a lot of arbitration. So we provided for this process so that if a provider, i.e. doctor, hospital, thinks they're being treated unfairly, or insurance company thinks they're being billed too much, you can take it to arbitration and let the arbitrator decide which number makes most sense. And if you're one of those two parties, you know you're not going to be ridiculous in whatever number you submit, because you're going to lose. And so just be fair. We think that's a fair thing to do. So the Medical Society came back to me and said, well, why don't we make, during this process, a system where we can have peer review, where a panel of doctors can be the one to review the bill by the doctor or by the hospital, and let them decide, let their decision be binding. And I said, so you want a panel of doctors to decide what a doctor should be paid? I said, why don't we just require, I don't know, Roger Clemens and pick a pitcher, for a panel of pitchers to decide what a pitcher should get paid. It just doesn't make any sense. You know what's going to happen. So we think this is fair. And so right now we're in this battle between the insurance companies and the doctors, and there are politics involved. There are legislators who care more about what one side says versus the other, or it's going to be really difficult, unfair problem.
Are these legislators, without naming their names, legislators who get funding from either the insurance company or the doctors or some of the stakeholders?
No, I think that what they're hearing from is their local hospital. And that hospital thinks that this bill might be a little bit weighted toward the insurance companies, or there might be a legislator who thinks, or the governor's office, for example, we haven't heard anything from them on this yet. They may believe that we're being unfair one way or the other. This is not transactional. This is actually about what legislators think is a fair resolution. Now, I'm the chair of the Health Committee. One of the sponsors of the Assembly is the chair of the Assembly Financial Institutions and Insurance Committee. So, we have all the data. We've done all of the research, and we think we'll get this done.
After 6 years, are you close now?
We're really close. And in fact, this is a brand new iteration of the bill from last year.
At one point, did you try to cap costs?
Yeah, we did.
And that went
didn't
nowhere?
work either. But we said to them, so there was an argument with the providers and the doctors, and they said, well, these insurance companies, they're so well off. They're going to take us to arbitration on everything. So, well, that's really not the experience in other states. So let's just put that aside. But even if they were to arbitrate something, why don't we require the insurance companies to pay you at least 150% of some baseline number as sort of upfront payment for cash flow? Because you're worried about cash flow. What if they arbitrate everything? What if they challenge all of our bills? Then we're not getting paid for anything. So why don't we require them to pay you something up front? Well, that's not enough. We want more than that. We want the insurance companies to pay the entire bill in full, and if we lose an arbitration, they can give us the money back. I'm like, this. So every time we get to a certain point, they move the goalpost.
It seems like so much common sense, and yet as you try to move this bill forward, it sounds like it's just excuse me for putting it this way, it sounds like there's a lot of entities that are a little bit greedy when it comes to the money that patients have to spend.
A lot greedy.
A lot greedy. Okay, I'm glad you said it. And they don't want that gravy train to end because they've found a way around the insurance system, and they don't like you trying to plug that up.
Right. So if this is an annual $20 million issue across the board in healthcare, and we begin to solve this, that $20 million comes from somebody. Right, comes out of somebody's pocket. So the overcharging or the underpaying becomes an issue, and we're just trying to solve this. You know, here's the irony: if you have a straight-out HMO without an out-of-network benefit, there's no balance. Balance billing is illegal in New Jersey. But if you have this out-of-network benefit, meaning that you can go out-of-network, or if you are in an out-of-network situation, then the provider can charge more money. And now the more money is whatever they believe they can get away with.
So you have everybody checking their policies right now. You can stick around one more segment. We'd like to come back and talk a little bit about Governor Christie and national politics when we return with Senator Joe Vitale.